Hi everybody, thank you for watching Sandra's Art Studio. Today I'm going to show you how I make this little turtle. And the turtle is made with epoxy resin, but you have to make the initial piece with something else, right? So this is, let's call it our masterpiece. And this is going to be the one that we're going to use to make cute little turtles like you see there on the left. So I make a little ball and then a little, kind of like a teardrop, a little bit of a teardrop. And then I flatten it out a little bit. And you see all the tools that I have to write. Well, I may use some of these tools to make the marks on the back of the turtle's shell, right? So as you see on the turtle's back, there are like 3 diamond shapes, right? So that means I have to do 4 little lines, right, to contain those 3 diamond shapes. And if you make a mistake, don't sweat it too much. Just go ahead and turn the whole piece over and flatten the shape a little bit again, and then, make your marks again. And once I'm happy with that, I move on to the sides and I do lines, like there's a line that goes all around the turtle shell, but it's not a perfect line. So I just grab one of my tools and I make the marks, like little dashes, just go all around. And once I'm happy with that, then I move on to doing the head and the flippers, right? So this is just going to be really by observation. There's really not much to it. Also want to let you know that I am using a sheet protector over a yellow sheet, or inside of the sheet protector I have a yellow sheet, and this helps me turn my pieces around as I'm working on it. It doesn't let my pieces stick to it, so it just makes life a little easier, right? So once you're done with this, you want to take it to your oven and cook it for 15 minutes at 275 degrees. And when it's cooled off, I cover it with gesso. Okay, gesso is a material that I use for painting my canvases with acrylics or oils. It's kind of like a primer, right? So while that is drying, I find the right plastic container, and I don't need it to be that deep, so I'm cutting it down a little bit. I didn't do the nicest cut job on it, but it doesn't matter, it works. Now here's another cool little tip that's probably going to save you some time. I use this red gloss paint, acrylic paint, over the shell because I wanted my shell to be on the shiny side when I'm done with my mold, when I'm casting my mold. So that way, every time I make one of these turtles, I don't have to clear coat just the shell to make it shiny. You see what I'm saying? Because polymer clay will actually give you a matte finish, and I want that glossy finish, right? That little bit of a shine. Every time I cast these little turtles, I want the shell to be shiny. So that's why I'm doing the shell glossy. And here I'm repairing a little bit of a crack on that container that I'm going to use for my mold. I use that hot glue gun, which it works perfect. So I realized that I should have just done each section of the turtle shell instead of dropping the whole blob of paint over it, because now I find myself taking removing some of that glossy paint that goes in between each section. And there's a reason for that. I don't want those sections to be dulled down, and I also want them to have like a rougher texture. I don't want that glossy texture to be in between each section of the turtle shell. And once I'm done with that, I take the glue gun and I'm gonna just put a dab of this glue on the bottom of my turtle, so that way it stays put and it doesn't start floating around all over the place once I pour my silicone rubber. And this is the silicone rubber mold making kit that I use, and this is what my mold looks like so far. This is after 2 or 3 hours. This product is mixed 1 part of A and 1 part of B, equal portions. You don't have to use this silicone rubber, of course. I'm sure you already have something lined up, but if you want to use this one, I'll leave the link on the description. Now I'll set this mold on the side, and I'm going to show you another mold that I have been working on with the turtles. And here I have this little 1 ounce plastic cup, and I'm making my little marks to make sure that I don't go over or go under with pouring my resin and the hardener, because these resins are usually a part 1 and part 2, or part A and part B. So once I have this mixed, I will divide the mix into 2 little caps, and one of them I'm only going to have some acrylic paints. Right there you see blue and white. And the other cap, I'm going to have the clear resin, epoxy resin, mixed in with some flakes and some mica colors. So the mica colors are actually going to keep the epoxy resin translucent. And by putting those flakes, the effect that I'm going to get is kind of like the opal effect. Like you see through it a little bit and you see all these iridescent flakes. So you want to have a good set of mica colors and a good set of iridescent flakes. So now that I have my 2 caps with epoxy resin, I'm gonna have one with the mica and the iridescent flakes, and the other one with just the acrylic paints. Okay, so 2 of these turtles have been already poured, and basically what I did was first pour that translucent with the iridescent flakes and the mica. That's the first pour that I do. So that way the shell of the turtle is going to look like a opal. Very beautiful and iridescent and shimmering. It turns out really nice. So I love that effect. And the other one cap that I have with the more solid colors, I'm going to finish the pour of the 2 little turtles that already have some epoxy resin in it. Okay, so one of them, it looks like I poured all the way to the legs of the turtle, but it actually kind of like ran into the legs. So I'm going to finish it off with this solid epoxy resin that I'm pouring right now. And as you see on the one turtle right there, I'm finishing off the legs, and it's going to be more of a solid color. The other one, it did like run off that translucent mica and iridescent flakes into the legs, but I'm going to finish it off with the solid, so that way it has a little bit of a different color, because the first pour was translucent, right? And you may want to make sure that the resin goes all the way to the end, because sometimes it leaves a little bubble there, which usually it doesn't. So I grab a toothpick and I move the epoxy resin all the way to the end, and I make sure that everything is filled. All right, so this is a nice little craft. So be patient and take your time. And by the way, when I apply paints to these epoxies, because I'm only using 1 ounce at the time, it's just a drop of this and a drop of that. If you're doing the micas or the iridescent flakes, you're just doing a little pinch of this and a little pinch of that. And you'll see it just goes a long ways. These are tiny little items, so be careful with your amounts, okay? And here I am pouring the translucent epoxy resin into just the turtle shell part. Just the turtle shell part. And since I have some left over and I have some of these seahorses, I'm just going to fill them up too. So I'll show you guys how I did the seahorse later in another video. So now in 24 hours, I should be able to take out the 2 little sea turtles that you see there with the darker color, and the ones that I just poured the shell epoxy resin into, just the shell part, I will pour some more epoxy resin with solid acrylic colors to complete the legs and the head and all that. So you see, it's an ongoing process, because each one of these guys have like a 2-step process. And here you see the difference in between a turtle shell that has just acrylic paint and glitter and the turtle shell that has the opal effect. And once I get them out of the mold, I will apply a stick to it, which I do it with the same epoxy resin, and then I put some eyes on each one of these guys, and I use this puffy paint. But I also have glued crystals for eyes, And I also painted the white lines in between each one of the sections on the turtle shell on the back for some of them, okay? Not all of them. And I did that using acrylic paints. And of course, if you're liking this video, please give me a like and subscribe. You know how this works. It takes a lot of effort to put these videos together, and I really appreciate when other people appreciate what I appreciate. Yay. And as you see here, I am applying the eyes to each one of the turtles, and it does help that it's on a stick. And these sticks are actually bamboo, and bamboo is hypoallergenic because it is naturally antimicrobial and cooling. So I didn't know this at the very beginning when I started playing around with these guys. And how I found out about bamboo sticks is because I had issues myself with my scalp, and I was, just using other things. And one day I used some chopsticks, and I noticed that the chopsticks were not irritating my scalp. So I continued to use them. And then I started, making like little hair sticks out of it. And boom, that's how this business was pretty much created. I thought of the bees first, and then I did the mermaids, and I did others. And as you follow me along, you will see me create each one of these hair clips or hair sticks. So as you see, to me, it's totally worth doing the 2-stage. So that way the turtle shell has a slight different color than the rest of his body. And I definitely like, and I had to share this with you guys, I definitely like this translucent turtle shell with all the iridescent colors that it picks up. So it reminds me so much of opals, right? So anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you. Goodbye.